Hi moms, I'm Lori Wildenberg from the Mom Initiative, and I'm here to talk to you about having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day as a mama, and maybe even some things we can do about those, or even reduce some of those terrible, horrible, no good, very bad days. I'm sure you're familiar with the story of Alexander and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, and I'm going to read you just a little bit from that book. I went to sleep with gum in my mouth, and now there's gum in my hair. And when I got out of bed this morning, I tripped on the skateboard, and by mistake, I dropped my sweater in the sink while water was running, and I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. At breakfast, Anthony found a Corvette Stingray in his car kit breakfast cereal box, and Nick found a junior undercover agent code ring in his breakfast cereal box. But in my breakfast cereal box, all I found was breakfast cereal. I think I'll move to Australia. Now, we may not have exactly the same problems as Alexander, but we have had some pretty terrible, horrible, no good, very bad days as moms. We all have. I remember one time Tom and I had taken three of our kids. We've got four, but this was before the fourth one had arrived. And we took our kids to this church retreat thinking it would be all great fun. Well, our youngest was only a month old, and we had one that was just a little shy of 2 and one that was a little shy of being 4. And so you can imagine what that was like. What were we thinking? We didn't just have a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. We had a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad weekend. And what was I thinking? So sometimes when we have these bad days, it's because we have particular expectations. We have a thought that things are going to go the way we dream they might go. And they don't always go the way that we would dream they would go. I'm going to tell you about another trip that I took that wasn't a weekend trip. It was just a trip to the grocery store, and this time with 4 of my little characters. And one cart was filled with groceries. The other cart was filled with children. And as we were approaching the checkout line, one of the 4 decided that this was the time to have a no good, terrible, horrible, no good, very bad tantrum. And she had a big, huge blowout tantrum. Now, as you could imagine, by the time we're with child number 4, these lose a little of their effectiveness with mom. So I wasn't too worked up about the tantrum, and neither were the other 3. They just continued on their kid thing. Well, as we pulled up to the cashier, she gave me some empathy, which was really, really nice. She said, "Oh, it's a bad day, isn't it?" And I thought for 1 second, and I thought, you know what? Actually, it's not. It's just a bad moment. So if we can take our bad days and look at them in little chunks of time and think of them as a bad moment, it's easier for us to get through that particular situation. I'm going to give you a couple little tips that have helped me throughout the years, and maybe they'll help you. I try to remember that I'm not perfect and give myself a break, and neither is the gal next to me, even though it might seem like she is. My husband isn't perfect. He's not the perfect dad. He's not the perfect husband. He's awesome, but he's not perfect. My kids, awesome, not perfect. So I first start out remembering who I am and who my kids are and who the neighbor is. And then I try to remember that imperfection behaves exactly as we would expect, imperfectly. So we have imperfect kids who behave just the way you would think, imperfectly. If I can keep my attitude and my perspective in check, then I'm going to have a little better response to whatever my situation is. I can choose to be calm, and I can choose to be kind, even in the midst of a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. I can remember that God's grace and forgiveness covers me, and I can remember to, in turn, give grace and forgiveness to my kids when we are having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. And then I guess I probably don't have to move to Australia. But maybe things aren't perfect there either. Anyway, thanks for listening, and glad that you're a part of the Mom Initiative, and it's good to talk with you. Take care.